can you talk a little bit at some point about rehabbing the dog where you
we'll talk
them in a situation where there was a judge and now they're afraid to be in the ring?
Yeah. So we just had that. Cindy, at the break, asked me a question that is a super complicated question, right? So, which is, if you've pushed your dog into learned helplessness, or your dog's had a bad aversive experience of some kind and made associations we don't want, can you undo it? And it's a complicated question. It's wildly variable from dog to dog, right? So it's going to depend a lot on how intense the experience was, how bad the experience was, right? How long it went on, all those things, your dog's sensitivity levels and general temperament. And a big key is your dog's level of motivation. So the higher your dog's motivation for rewards, the easier it is to rehab bad experiences, because then I can put them in that context again and give them reinforcement or rewards, and the rewards mean so much to them that they more quickly forget about the negative experience. The less motivated your dog is, the harder it is to fix. The critical thing here is most people are applying corrections sooner with less motivated dogs. This is the opposite of the way it should go, actually. So this is, if you have a dog that's got less motivation, they're not performing as well as a dog with high levels of motivation during the learning phase, right? Because the dog that really wants the ding reward is trying very hard to figure it out, and so they make those connections faster, they try harder, all those kinds of things, right? So dogs with high levels of motivation for reward tend to learn quickly, and then the dogs with lower levels of motivation make more mistakes, they're less attentive, they check out more, they do all those other things because they don't care as much about the rewards. So, contrary to what you should do, we start correcting the less motivated dogs sooner, right? They're like, you're not paying attention, so I start giving you corrections for not paying attention. Well, the dog already wasn't so into this, right? They didn't really want the reward all that bad anyway, and so now the corrections are not going to make that better. They're not going to suddenly say, oh, yippee, working with you is great now, right? And so we actually have a further erode their level of motivation. And so now I make a bad correction poorly timed for something I didn't want, and they made a superstitious association with the judge or whatever, and now I try to fix it, but I don't have the motivation to fix it. And those are the dogs that are unfortunately more likely to have been put in that position in the first place. They were failing because they didn't care as much about the rewards and weren't as focused, and we added the pressure before we should. So usually, and this is a tricky thing for people to go through, and depending on the dog and your situation, if you're doing pet dogs and things like that, I understand as pet dog trainers that we have other constraints that we have to think about, right? People are not going to spend the amount of time to do it the way that we think it should be done, right? So in my head, I have a perfect picture of the steps I would like to take and how I'd like this process to go, and I will spend as much time as I need on each of the steps to get it the way I want. The unfortunate economic reality of being a pet dog trainer is somebody's not going to pay you like $500 a week for 2.5 years while you get this right, right? So it would be great, but very few people out there are going to do that for you, right? And so you make certain choices that are based on expediency and financial need and things like that that may not be ideal, so it's unfortunate. But almost always with a dog that I'm struggling with in the early phases, my first line is always to attempt to increase their motivation by breaking out my motivational games and things like that, practicing doing those things, finding ways to intensify motivation in a dog first. It's always my go-to first. Can I fix this by making you want rewards more and showing you more clearly what you have to do to get those rewards? And that's always going to be my first try. It doesn't always work. Not every dog can have their motivation increased to a functional level, and correction may wind up having to be the answer. What we're talking about here in this class is the ways that we can add that correction with the minimal amount of fallout, preventing those things. And how quickly, this is a constant question at seminars and things, like, can I fix it? I did it wrong, can I fix it, right? We don't know. Sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. Like, it's the dog, and this is one of the hardest things to admit as a dog trainer, right? You can't fix everything. And if you're doing it professionally, this is really hard to admit. Somebody's about to pay you, and you have to be able to say, that can't be fixed. And some things can't. Some things can be made better, but never fixed, and management becomes an issue for certain kinds of dogs and things like that based on their experiences, their temperament, and all that. And the better we are at it, the more things we'll be able to fix, but we can never fix everything. So it's a complicated one.